Welcome into the Devy Degens. I am SC Romero. That is Tom Harvey, and we have an exciting show from you. Meek Bill once said, he had dreams and nightmares, right? And this is something we're going to talk about: dream landing spots and the nightmare landing spots for the Devy Degens. But before we get that, let's get all the viewers a little hype with a little bit of intro music. Let's get it.
Breaking down the hate, man, we call it like we see it. Finding all the gems while the rest just sleeping. Freshmen to the league, we ahead of the curve. Picking out the next star, put them on the reserve. From the big time schools to the deep cut finds. Gotta know who's next when it's draft day time. Stock rising, playmaking, watch them ball out. Devy Degens, yeah, no doubt. Yo, it's time to talk the future Devy style. Prospects rising, diamonds shining. Only the real ones grinding. Welcome to the Devy Degens, let's go. Let's go!
Let's go talk about the prospect risings. Tommy, my man, how's it going, brother?
Oh man, it's going good. It's going good. You know, you were talking about Meek Mill a second ago.
Oh yeah,
You know, that 10 years ago, him and MMG, Rick Ross,
yeah.
Wale.
Oh yeah, Maybach music, man.
Yep.
Love it, love it. Everyone knows a little bit about Dreams and Nightmares. If you don't, go check out that album. It is great, man. It's also WrestleMania weekend. For people that don't know, me and Tommy are big into wrestling. It's WrestleMania week as well. So, as WrestleMania is about dreams and nightmares happening, that's what we're really diving in today. So, right, we're gonna talk about some specific players: quarterback, running back, tight end, wide receiver, and their dream landing spots for us, and also the nightmare landing spots. But before you go, as you know, we like to get in the kitchen, cook up a little bit of stuff here and there, and give y'all some hot takes and what's going on. So I'm gonna give y'all my hot take first, and then Tommy's gonna give his. DJ Jamie, what's up, man? Jamie is. If you don't follow Jamie, make sure you do. This guy is a loyal person. Comes to all your shows, asks questions. Jamie, what's up, man? Thank you for joining in. BLC return Stone Cold. Maybe. I'll just say if that glass shatters, you know it's about to go down. That's all I'll say. That glass shatters, oh, someone's about to get that Stone Cold Stunner. But my hot take, like I feel it's hot, and then I feel it's not. People are like, "Oh, this is it." People are not. But mine is Ted McMillan will not be a top 3 wide receiver in this class. Tommy, how hot is that for you?
It really depends on landing spot for me. I think if he goes somewhere where he can become a one, then great. If he goes somewhere where he's gonna be stuck as the number 2 guy, then it's just just another dude then,
Right, like you don't think he could go out there and beat Soa, let's say if he is with Nico Collins, that Nico outshines him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Nico
Collins is the pure number 1 there. 100%.
What if he goes to Miami and they trade Tyreek Hill? Now it's him and Jalen Waddle.
Probably so, because he'd be more the possession guy.
Yeah.
So you're looking at more of a PPR type of receiver there.
I think Miami's going to shed yours, so I don't, we'll see. But that's something. JB, like you say right here, RPO Fantasy Show, IDP, and offense. Also, Fantasy Six Pack and going for 2. Make sure you're following my guy. Drop your X handle, Jamie, so people know where to find you on X if you're on there. No, I agree. I just think that's where it really comes down to. Even in Carolina, like I see it, but I'm also like, I don't know how much I love that offense through Bryce Jones to feed Ted McMillan. I just don't see if it's going to happen. I feel they're going to try to run it a lot more, and they got Rico Dowdle right. They signed Chuba Hubbard. We still have Jonathan Brooks there. I don't know how much I'm in love with the wide receivers, even if it's Ted, and that's where I've seen a lot of mocks taking them as 7th pick, I think is what they have, where I'm just not too confident in making that happen for him, so I don't think he's a top 3. I am taking Burden, I'm taking Hunter, I'm taking Ibuka, I'm also taking Trey Harris, with Ted. Granted, Ted falls to me at the back end of the 12th, 112, then I'll be like, all right, let's have it. But, I just don't necessarily see it going to be that easy for him.
And I'm the more and more I watch him, the more and more enthralled I'm getting with Jaden Higgins. I think he has it all.
You're putting him over Jaden Higgins over him?
Over Tet? I'm not putting him over Tet, but I'm putting him in my top 5 right now. Yeah.
Okay. JB say Tay is in my top 18 fantasy wide receivers. Might not ever hit top 5, but top 12, that's definitely a game. I like that. And I don't know if people are putting him in let's say top 10. So top 18, I feel that, and possibly top 12, possibly. But
I think
that's
it
down
depends
the
on
line.
landing spot. I think it depends on landing spot. You don't want him to go to a place that already has a number one. You
Right.
want him to go to a place where he can be the number one guy.
Right. And actually, I was about to say, what's your best landing spot? But we're going to get into that a little later.
Yeah,
So
we're gonna hit that. We're gonna hit that in a minute. We're gonna hit
let's
that.
not give that away. But before we get into our takes like that, Tommy, talk to me about your hot take for the week.
Yeah. We're talking about dreams and nightmares. We had a really big dream that kind of turned into a nightmare over the weekend with Nico Iamaleava, right?
Right.
He him and his camp decided that they didn't want to, or that they wanted way too much money, and Tennessee told him no. So, and then he decided he wasn't going to show up to practice, and he basically got dismissed from the program.
Sure.
So, I mean, we're going to kind of talk, best potential landing spots here, and those are kind of dwindling. They're kind of dwindling pretty quickly. He's not going to go to Oregon. People need to get that out of their head.
I don't think so. I would even
matter of fact, Dan Lanning reportedly called Josh Heupel to tell him that.
Yeah, I love that
Big Nick was shopping him in the offseason. So he ain't going to Oregon.
Yeah, I love that. People hate that, and I'm just like, that's Lanning playing the game. But if I'm Nico, I don't necessarily want to do that either. Like, Oregon has competition at every position. I don't want to, if I'm him, I want to go somewhere where I'm not competing. I'm like, this is my game. I'm the starter here.
Well, that's kind of where I narrowed my list here. Based off kind of some rumors and based off potential there. I've got UCLA on my list. I don't necessarily think he's going to go there. I think that his family has burned some bridges there with his brother being a UCLA commit, and then on signing day flip to Arkansas. Right. So I think there may be some burnt bridges there. So I don't think UCLA is really on the table. I do think it would be a great spot for him. But I don't necessarily think that he's going to end up going there.
I will say for those in the Devy community, Madden Iamaleava, his younger brother, is now Arkansas. Keep him on your radars. But who else you got?
A couple other teams I've got. I think he'd be a really good fit at West Virginia.
Okay.
He kind of has that that scrambling ability, the running ability that West Virginia seems to like with their quarterbacks.
For sure.
I think Maryland is a good spot. He's familiar with a wide receiver that has just transferred there. Caleb Webb transferred from Tennessee to Maryland. Right. They also play kind of a up-tempo run and gun type of style. I think he would like throwing the ball all over the place. Right. And then another one that's been really heavily rumored today is Tulane. So it's a G5 spot, but who knows how much they're willing to pay him.
They just lost. Was it Tulane that lost Mensa?
Yeah, he went to Duke, right?
Yeah, for like $10 million or something. That was some crazy number. Yeah,
but I mean, those are really Tulane is what I'm hearing the most chatter about right now. North Carolina was until it came out earlier today that they were out.
Okay, so
Pete Nakos reported that North Carolina was out.
What does that? Yeah, North Carolina. I saw that rumor, and I saw it get shut down really quick. Tulane, what does that say to you on a Devy perspective if he drops down to a G5? Is there anything he can do at Tulane? Like at that point, do you expect him to come out next year? Do you expect him to transfer back up to the Power 4? What does that do as a prospect? So I'm seeing a lot of talks just in different communities that they're now out on Nico. Like they're like, this is he drew the line. We are allowed out on him. Trade him away or don't even draft him at this point. What does that mean if he goes down to a G5 to you?
Well, I mean, it tells me that his plan went horribly wrong. He was wanting more money, went chasing it, and Tulane's not going to give him $4 million a year.
Right.
They're not. I mean, I don't think they even have that to give him.
For sure.
So, I mean, he's bag chasing and he's not going to get it.
Right.
So he was better off just kind of biding his time, staying where he was, and then next year entering the draft.
Right. For sure.
Because then the questions about his character, honestly, I don't necessarily put it all on Nico. I think a lot of it's his dad.
Right.
But again, he's a 21-year-old kid.
Thank you, Jamie.
I understand that culturally, the elders and all that stuff kind of have a little bit to do with it. So he's probably, caught in between a rock and a hard place there.
Right.
But his dad's driving his career into the ground.
For sure.
And with him transferring down to Tulane, potentially, if that's where he ends up, even if he ends up at Maryland or West Virginia or UCLA or wherever at this point, it's not going to be a college football playoff type of team.
Right. For sure.
Unless surprisingly Ohio State or somebody comes out of the woodwork, which I don't think is going to happen.
And what's crazy about it is like you talk about it was a mistake on their end. The thing was, I don't know if it was necessarily a mistake as much as the timing was wrong. Because had he done this back in December, he's on the team. He goes somewhere like that. He goes to Ohio State. He goes to potential Oregon. He goes somewhere that is like, at this point, he waited till this springtime when they're already like, man, we've already been talking to our guys. We already have competition set up. We don't need you at this point.
It was definitely a miscalculation. There was rumors back during the CFP that he could potentially sit out the game, looking for a new deal, and that they kind of satisfied him a little.
Like how you say new deal, like what a time to be alive, right? New deal in college football,
right? And that they kind of satisfied him with whatever number they ended up giving him.
Right.
Then come January, they started asking for more again. Then that report by Pete Nakos came out Thursday night. Nico's dad didn't like it. Then the next day, Nico doesn't show up to practice.
Yeah.
There's ways to handle things. There's ways to not. He handled it completely wrong. Him and his dad, whatever quote unquote agent he's using. I know he's not using an official agent. I think he's just using a former personnel staffer from somewhere.
At the pro level, you can do this at any given time. Say, hey, I'm a holdout, do whatever. The college level, that timing does matter, and I think
difference is you're not able to say, I'm not playing for this team. I want to become a free agent now. You can't do that in the NFL.
They don't have that same commitment. Like it's the NIL and the collectives. It's not the team. Right. So coach could be like, all right, man, you're not going to play. Bye.
And there's also varying degrees of contractual language in these NIL deals. Like whenever Nico first signed it, it was kind of the wild, wild west with the NIL stuff.
Right.
But there were some clauses in there that could be pretty harmful for him, honestly. One of the clauses was that, from what I understand, was that Tennessee was on the hook for the entire contract. So the entire $8.5 million, whatever it ended up being. But a way to get out of that was if Nico didn't reach his obligations. So like skipping out on events, autograph sessions, which he's done.
Right.
So that's a way for Tennessee to get out of that. Another thing that was in there, from what I understand, was if he were to transfer out, that he cannot receive NIL from another school until 2026.
Oh, wow. So he might be screwed at that point anyways. That's huge, though. I think that becomes a big part. This is a good question. JB, I know you had some questions earlier about some Travion Henderson. We'll get to those because we're talking about those specifically. So I appreciate you asking those. Continue to do that. He does say, I heard Nico might go Ohio State. Honestly, I think that's not good. That's to make money in the NFL, so he's trying to get paid. Yeah, the thing is here, like some players have to – some players need to stay and get the NIL money because you're not getting a first-round pick. So you're not making $1 million out the gate. You may get $100K. That's still a lot of money in the NFL. You're playing at the grandest level, so you have that opportunity. But some players have to say, like, all right, look, this is still enough. Like Nico jumping out doesn't make sense to me. But I guess, whether it be his dad or whoever he's talking to, the momentum came and saying, hey, you are the QB1 of the class. You have the leverage to do what you want. A team wants you. And they're seeing that's not the case, man. Like, again, the timing matters, and they really did not justify it. Mad Dog comes in and says, is this just a case of players assuming they have more leverage than they actually do, or is it player specific? I think a little bit of both here. I mean, Nico feels that way, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, y'all don't have the leverage yet.
Well, honestly, I think the only player in the country who has that type of leverage is Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah, because people will fight for him, and that's a position that people need that alpha. Again, you get that quarterback position where it's like we have our competition. People know, hey, I want to see what I have in my guys. Again, December, no one's talking about it. If this were in December, no one's talking about it. Everyone's just like, oh, Nico's in transfer portal. But because we're in April now, going into spring games have been happening. Now it's a big deal. And now it's saying, look, you can't be doing this.
And also, make no mistake about it, Tennessee leaked this Thursday night, which is how it got out there. Because otherwise, Pete Nakos wouldn't have gotten any indication that this was ever happening, and it would have never gotten out there. And then, Nico would have been at practice the next day because it wouldn't have even been a thing. Right. He would, but again, he may have just surprisingly entered the portal. Who knows?
Right. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I think he will get somewhere. I mean, it'll be kind of crazy if he doesn't. But at the same time, I feel team is missing out. I just think the teams that he was winning, I don't think they're missing out. I think they have their guys. I know people are saying Ohio State. I can't. The last name's spacing me, but Luke and Julian Sayin. Julian Sayin's been looking great, and honestly, we saw Will Howard look great last year. You have Jeremiah Smith and Cardinal Tate. It's very hard not to look great. Right?
They're not going to upset the apple cart right there by bringing in a guy who could potentially ruin the culture of that team. They're not going to bring in Nico for that.
This is a whole team that ran with Colin McCord all season. Like they're not, they're okay with their guys, right?
Yeah.
So let's see. He also said, imagine how much money Johnny Manziel would make with these NIL deals. You think about Manziel, you think about RJ3, hell, Vince Young, Mark Sanchez, Matt Liner.
Imagine how much money Tim Tebow would have made.
Tim Tebow, right? All these players that made an impact. I mean, you talk about Watson at that time, right? Deshaun Watson. You think about all these players that had the opportunity. He
would have spent it on massage parlors, but
yeah. Watson, yeah, for sure. Tebow would have just spent it on he probably gave it to the team, honestly. That's how good Tebow was. I think it's very interesting. This is a very interesting take as far as what Nico is and what Nico can do. Obviously, the talent's there. Obviously, Nico can do some things. That's going to be very big for him on what he's accomplishing at that next level. Does it hurt his draft stock? I think it does, because I think he's 2027 now, right? I think he pushes it back a year. I don't know if he's coming out next year.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get a little bit more into it in the mailbag later on. We have a couple questions, one of them specifically about Nico, so we'll dive into it a little bit more in a little bit.
Before we get into our promo for Fast Draft, Jamie does ask Ryan Williams or Jeremiah Smith. There's no thoughts on it. It's Jeremiah Smith all the way.
Smith, yeah.
I know people are heavy on Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams had a great season. I like a lot of other freshmen too. Ryan Williams is good, but there is no question. There's no verses here. It's Jeremiah Smith and everybody else, right?
Matter of fact, you can give me Cam Coleman over Ryan Williams.
I'm also saying Ryan Wingo at this point. I like some people. Cam Coleman's filthy too. But we're gonna talk about some rookies here and their dreams and nightmare landing spots. But before we get into it, if you're looking to make some fast dough and make some money, we have a little take. Tommy, where are you going to actually get some fast money right now?
Yeah, head on over to Fast Draft. You can enter in our promo code DGen, get a $25 deposit. You can what that does is it allows you to basically what it says, Fast Draft.
There you go. Let's get a word from our sponsors here to talk to you a little bit about Fast Draft.
Rookie. It's all about rookie talk in fantasy football right now. So why not go use all that knowledge to do something other than a mock draft? Chris Gimino won $8,000 with just 2 teams last year, and each draft took 5 minutes. That's pretty good ROI. You can start doing rookie drafts for money today on Fast Draft. The Origins tournament is live. It is the place to go and monetize your knowledge of rookies and use your favorite player profiler host promo code for a $25 deposit match. Now let's go start drafting faster.
Go start drafting faster. For all people on slow drafts, I love slow drafts, but if you take the full 24 hours or whatever, start drafting faster, please. It'll help out your league a lot.
Yep. Just a bit of breaking news over the last half hour or so. Jaden Ott is transferring out of Cal. So that's he's entering the transfer portal. That's another potential running back for the next draft class. That's going to be out there.
So I'm glad you said that. That's good breaking news there. Jaden Ott transferring. This is interesting because we just said timing's everything, right? For the spring and all that.
Running back's a little bit different because quarterback, you would expect all the high level teams to have their quarterbacks already. But running back, every team looks for running back.
Yeah, the depth. And everyone's Ohio State, Nico. Jaden Not in Ohio State would actually be pretty nice. I know they have CJ Donaldson there. James Peoples, I would like that actually. I think he could go somewhere into a Big Ten or more going on there. Jamie, tomorrow they're doing Origins Breakdown with Jagger. Hey, shout out Jagger, man. He's a great guy too. That would be awesome though, seeing Jaden Not. But speaking of it, as I mentioned, this episode's about the rookies, diving into it. Meek Mill once said, I used to pray for times like this, so I grind like that to sign like this, right? Matter of time I spent, and we're not going to get into the rest of it. But this is our Dreams and Nightmare episode. We're going to talk about some of our top guys in the ranks and where our dream landing spot is and our nightmare landing spot, right? Because everyone has that too. So we're going to dive in, and we're going to start off with the quarterbacks here. But let's get into it. First one is Cam Ward. Now, my dream spot is number 3 to the Giants. Why? I know he's number 1 prospect, right? Or not number 1 prospect, number 1 possibly to the Titans. I don't know who their wide receivers are. So that kind of scares me. I know they can add some people, all that good stuff. Cleveland just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. We've seen time and time again. I know there's a different OC, there's different head coach. I know things like that. Things can change. We see time and time again where Cleveland doesn't do right by their quarterback. I know Jameis Winston had the whole great, Judy made the joke look good, made all this stuff look good. I don't know if Cam Ward's doing that. So that's my nightmare spot for him in Cleveland, which will be number 2. My dream, though, is putting him with neighbors, man. Cam Ward has the cannon. Cam Ward has the arm strength to just throw it down the field and make the plays. You put him with Malik Neighbors, OMG, that is going ham as hard as it's going crazy. That's something I love. I would love him in the Giants. What is your dream and nightmare spot for Cam Ward?
Oh man, you said the Browns are your nightmare spot. That's probably my dream spot for him. Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, David Njoku. Go there and you can sling the ball all over the place. They don't have much of a running game with Nick Chubb being constantly hurt. I think that's a dream spot for him, honestly. Then my nightmare spot is the Titans. The Titans don't have much of anything there. They would be basically starting from scratch with them. That's a nightmare scenario for any quarterback to have to basically start over with no real weapons around you.
Now I know we're on our Restrepo game. We both like Restrepo. So let's say they draft Cam Ward and then get Restrepo like in the 3rd, maybe the 4th. And now they have Calvin Ridley and Restrepo. Does that do anything for you? It's still like, I don't like it.
Not really. And for the most part, Restrepo and Ridley kind of play the same spot. So it's just, it doesn't really do a lot for me. And
I've been saying this whole time, they need to go Abdul Carter, go ahead and get him, and then go after your quarterbacks next year. Give Will Levis another shot. I know he's been rumored to be traded. I think Mason Rudolph is the other guy, if I'm not mistaken. So you have the quarterbacks to stick with them and then, go forward on there. Restrep, JB, we're about to kick you, man. Restrep slow, bro. That's not cool in this one, man. We love Restrep over here.
Ran a slow time battling a hamstring. Let's not go there.
But let's go on to our second quarterback here. Primetime Son. Maybe Prime Son. I was trying to think of a nickname, kind of go off that, but it wasn't good. But Shedeur Sanders. Tommy, I'll let you start off. Where's your dream and nightmare for Shedeur Sanders?
My dream forms the Raiders. I think going there with Pete Carroll, kind of sitting behind Geno Smith for a year or two would really help him out. I think him and Geno's game are quite similar. And I think he could learn a lot from him there. My nightmare situation for him is the Giants. I don't think he would handle the New York media very well. That's a place where you can go and you can get 8 up. And I just don't know if he would be able to a lot of my red flags for him are centered around having to deal with stuff like that.
Publicity, that's fair.
So I don't see it. It could work out for him just because he's charismatic, has a personality, but also he could be the type of guy that may blow up on you.
So challenge to that question though. I mean, I know, New York, the Big Apple, media's all over the place, but isn't Vegas just as worse or just as bad with the like outside interference that could happen in Vegas?
The outside influences, maybe, but the media would just eat him up in New York.
I mean, you had Brothos talking about Jimmy Garoppolo can do his thing when he was there. You don't think that influences Shedeur, just to go do some things out there and, Sin City there?
See, I'm not necessarily sure Shedeur is like that.
That's fair.
He doesn't seem like the type of dude that's just going to go out and
get in trouble,
cause problems.
Right.
He's more going to get in trouble with the way he talks to people.
Fair.
And kind of the way he acts.
That's fair. And yeah, New York will bring out the best. They have some of the best media people there. They have some of the best people to get under your skin, but it's their job, right? To do certain things. So that is huge for him there. My dream spot would be Miami. You talked about having him sit behind Geno Smith. I know people like Tua Tagovailoa, but I also know Tua Tagovailoa has had injury problems. Because concussions have caused some things to question. You put him in an offense like that, oh boy, let me have that all day. If he goes to Miami, he doesn't need a start. I don't know if that's okay with me. But if he goes in there, like say Tua gets hurt again, and then you have Prime go in there, he's not giving that spot up. It's his, and now they gotta trade Tua. Right now, Tua's done. But I think they're holding on to him because they don't have anyone else. We saw it when Tua went down, the offense struggled. They needed a backup. Give them Shedeur Sanders and just let him sit patiently. That's fine. And let him wait, and then there you go. It's going to happen. You need him with that kind of guy, with the Mike McDaniels. They kind of hype him up too. You're in Miami. It's still a good spot to be in outside too. You don't have to be all crazy, but you still have, the nice sun, the nice, beaches, things like that. And on top of that, you have a good system there that you can shine, with your offense around you.
Yeah.
My nightmares. Go ahead.
Another dream spot would could potentially be the Saints. There's talk Derek Carr could miss a season because of a shoulder problem.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you put him there with guys like Chris Olave and I think he could potentially do pretty well there also.
That's fair. I know Saints at 9, and then the Dolphins are at 12. My nightmare spot is the Titans. The same reasons, kind of what you said with Cam Ward. We've already seen him throw his O-line under the bus. If he goes somewhere to Titans that don't have that system or that energy built on anywhere really in their offense, that's gonna be a recipe for disaster, in my opinion, having someone like Shedeur go there as well. So I don't think that's the best spot for him. Next quarterback, though, Jackson Dart. Now, I would love for him. My dream spot is the Rams. I don't think he's going to start out the gate, but I think you put him with someone like Matthew Stafford, learn the ropes there. Now you have Jackson Dart with Puka Nacua as well and Connor Williams. I think that is great. I think that's something that he could flourish on. They could potentially get a Trey Harris down the line too. I would love that, but my nightmare spot for him would be the Raiders. I don't know if that's the system for him. I don't know if that's something where I want to see him go into. I just think they don't have the running back right now. Again, draft can change some things. But I think he kind of will need that, considering that it's only Brock Bowers there. I do like Jacoby Myers, but I don't think that's someone that's going to elevate him. I think him and Trey Harris have great chemistry. Trey Harris helped him get better, as well as Jackson Dart helped Trey Harris get better. I don't know if Jacoby Myers definitely influences that or makes him better at that point as well. So I wouldn't like him to go to the Raiders, considering that there is talk of him going, within the top 10 too.
Well, what happens if the Raiders draft him at 6 and then turn around and draft Trey Harris in the 3rd round?
The offense still might be more run heavy, right? I don't know if that's what he needs to find that success. I know that chemistry is coming together with it, but even then, that means what I felt once they got Pete Carroll. Does that mean Bowers goes down? Like, is it Trey Harris and Dart, or do they still try to utilize Bowers? Like, I just feel that's a conflict of interest in a sense there.
I got you. As far as my dream situation for him, be the Steelers. Steelers don't have a quarterback there. They've kind of swung and missed as far as being able to resign, Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. They haven't really gone out and I know that they've looked at Aaron Rodgers. I don't think that's going to happen. Right. So they're going to be looking for a quarterback. I think he fits well there with with guys like George Pickens and DK Metcalf and Pat Freiermuth. Yeah, I think that's a really good spot for him. My nightmare spot would be the Colts, just because you still don't know what you got with. I know what you got with Anthony Richardson, but it doesn't seem like they know what they got with him, and they're just still playing this game. Is he good or isn't he good? So I don't want to see them draft Jackson Dart to have to compete with that.
What's the answer to that? Is he good or is he not good?
Anthony Richardson's not good. No, he's terrible.
Does Daniel Jones start for the Colts at some point this season?
Yeah, he does, and he may be the day one starter. I mean, they didn't bring him in to sit making $14 million in a year.
We see some guys get paid some money and then they don't play anything, cough, Deshaun. But, I like that. Colts, I think that's a nightmare spot for sure. I do like the Steelers. I think that's great. I think they're 19 or so, and the Rams are 22 or something. So that could be something potential. I know people have tagged another quarterback there. We're not going to get into him because he's not on our list as far as what our top 3 quarterbacks are. That's what we want to do, is just our top 3 here. But yeah, I do think that's a good spot. And personally, we'll say Jalen Milroe. That's the guy that has been mocked there too. I'd say Dart over Milroe, in my opinion. But I know some don't feel that way. You would take Milroe?
No, Milroe. I don't think Milroe's any good.
I thought you were pointing down because I said that. I was like, no. Whoa.
He has a nice deep ball, but he can't throw anything else.
Fair. I agree. And I mean, the Steelers might be it, right? They might be a run with the deep, right? So that could be something there. But let's stop with the quarterbacks there. That was our 3 of our dreams and nightmares for the quarterbacks. Let's get into the running backs. And this one's going to be fun because we have, I think, 7 or 8, something like that, running backs that we're going to talk about. But right now, it's going to be Ashton Jeanty. Tommy, why don't you start off with Jeanty?
Yeah, my dream spot for Ashton Jeanty is the Bears. I think Ben Johnson has proven he can run 2 running backs effectively, with being with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery in Detroit. I think giving him Ashton Jeanty and DeAndre Swift would be just a dynamite combo. And I don't think you matter of fact, I think it would even elevate DeAndre Swift's game.
100%.
Yeah, my nightmare spot for him, the Jets.
All the rumors, yeah.
Yeah, you put him in a committee with Breece Hall and Braylon Allen, and Isaiah Davis is still there. I mean, there's not enough carries there to go around, and it would kill his fantasy value.
They would need to 100% trade Breece Hall before they even make that draft pick, before trying to do it. Because once you draft Jeanty and you have Breece Hall, you bring Breece Hall's value down, where people are like, we know you want to get rid of him, so we're not going to offer you this max him out when we know you don't even want him on your team, right? So you have to be strategic about that and say, all right, we'll go this way instead. So I do like that. My dream spot for him is the Cowboys. I know they brought in Javonte. I know they brought in Miles Sanders, 2 people of once upon a time. I think that's a spot that they could use him. I think that's a spot where he could Flores be their main guy there and just be a top back. And they've been struggling to find that back since you mentioned Ezekiel Elliott, so I think that could be their next RB1 true star of the future that they need. My nightmare spot is Carolina. Just too much. I mean, you talked about a committee. I know people say, he could go Carolina at 7 as well, but you're talking about they just signed Chuba Hubbard, so it's probably not happening. They brought in Rico Dowdle because Brooks is injured, but they also spent, second round capital on Jonathan Brooks last year. I don't think it makes sense for them to get it. I would put Jeanty over all those running backs, but I don't think the team necessarily would be able to do that. I think they would still try to use that committee approach, and I just don't think it would be a smart decision on their end. So our next running back here, Amarian Hampton. Now, my dream spot for Amarian Hampton is the Pittsburgh Steelers. We know what they do. They love to run the ball. You still have Arthur Smith there. We know it's what they did with Najee, right? He is a better fit than a Najee. Jalen Warren, I'm not worried about. I know people like Jalen Warren, and they're like, he's going to be RB1, because I'm not worried about that. Get someone like Amarian Hampton. Draft him in the first round. I think he's first round worthy. Get him, and you have something great there. A nightmare spot for me would be Kansas City. Isaiah Pacheco, I know he got hurt last year. I know there was down weeks, up weeks for him. I just don't like the idea of a running back in Kansas City. I think they need their wide receivers or find a replacement for Kelsey when that time comes. So I'm just out on a running back going to Kansas City. Whatever running back goes there, I'm possibly out on, especially if it's like an Amari and Hampton in the first.
Yeah. My dream spot for him is I think the Broncos would be a solid spot for him.
Yeah.
They'd kind of be that, that North Carolina running back do-over for them because Javonte Williams didn't pan out very well. But I think Amari and Hampton would slide in very nicely there.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Then my nightmare scenario would be for the Commanders. They have Brian Robinson already there. I don't think they complement each other very well. I think they kind of do similar things. I think Amari Hampton does it better.
Agreed.
But I just don't think that would be a good fit with both of them there.
That's fair. No, I 100% agree. I think Broncos would be great. I would love to see him there. Him and Bo Nix can definitely cook. And I know there's been rumors that they want a running back. They need to get someone that's a third down, an Nectar type of running back, not a first and second bruiser type of back that Brian Robinson is, because then you just have conflict of interest there as well. So I agree 100% with that. Our next one here, Quinshon Judkins. Now, my dream spot here for him would be the Houston Texans. I know they got Joe Mixon. They need someone behind them. Judkins can alleviate some time off for Joe Mixon if he goes down or if he just needs to come out the game and still have the same kind of energy that Mixon has and still be that guy. And then he could be the running back of the future. Mixon's 27, 28. He's getting towards that age, right? So it's like, okay, it can be him. And now you have Judkins to just step in. As soon as Mixon's gone, now you have Judkins. My nightmare landing spot for it would be Washington, similar to what you just said on Hampton. I just don't think it's a good fit. I think Judkins can be that 3-down back. I don't think they need to draft him when they can find someone. They have Robinson. I think Robinson is there for another season, and they can go get their 3-down back, or a change of pace back out there as well.
Yeah, I'm going to say my dream scenario for him. I mean, I just mentioned Javonte Williams. I think the Cowboys would be a great spot for Quinshon Judkins. They brought in Javonte Williams. They brought in Miles Sanders. Neither one of those guys are long time are your future running back. They're not a long-term fix. I think Judkins would be a potential perennial Pro Bowler playing with Dallas. My nightmare pick would be the 49ers, just because you want Quinshon Judkins to be that 3-down back, and he wouldn't be that with the Niners, not sitting behind Christian McCaffrey.
100%. Yeah, I agree. That's a good take there. Now, granted, if CMC goes down, it kind of moves things for Judkins, but you're wanting that. That's not, CMC is someone that he's on the field. No other running back matters. It's just CMC. Now, before we get to our next guy, as I mentioned, Jamie, we're going to get back to your statement earlier. He says, TreVeyon Henderson just visited the Bengals, Cowboys, and Panthers. What does this tell us from a fantasy standpoint? Then he followed that up with, sell Chase Brown at the highest value right now. Think about moving Chuba Hubbard for a profit and draft whichever running back Cowboys pick this year. Now, I say that because we're going to talk about TreVeyon Henderson. Tommy, I'll let you start off because you have a dream spot that he mentioned.
I do have a dream spot. I think he fits in perfectly with Cincinnati. Being a Buckeye, being right there, in Ohio, just a couple hours away from Cincinnati. Yeah. I think that he would fit in perfectly with what that offense does. He's a good pass catcher. He's good in space. He can hit a hole. He can go. And you don't really have to overly rely on him to carry a load there. Right. Like was mentioned, they have Chase Brown there. Right. You mix him with Chase Brown, and I think TreVeyon Henderson could be Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah. Fair. No, I love that. What was your nightmare spot for him?
My nightmare spot for him is the Bills. I think him and James Cook do a lot of the same things, and I just don't think that mixes well.
That's fair. I like the Bengals. You said you can kind of fidget him in and kind of give him the opportunities, like less is more. That's why my dream spot for him would be the New England Patriots. I know they have Ramondre Stevenson, but he's also someone that he could be that change of pace back. TreVeyon Henderson is one of the backs where he is very good, but I don't think he can't take that full workload. I think he's showing that he has to have less opportunity, but the less opportunity he has, the more production you're going to get from him, because we have seen him battle with some injuries in the past as well. So use that. Use Ramondre Stevenson as your bruiser. Let him go in, be the pass catching back. Let him go in, be your third down back, or just your kind of your home run hitter type of back, because if he's able to save that energy and get that speed, it's something that could benefit from them, especially if you have someone like a Drake May that can run the ball as well. Now you have an option with Trayvon Henderson to pitch it out to, and now boom, there he goes. He's off to the races.
Yeah, Trayvon Henderson also fits in well with the Bears. Kind of like the same thing I said with Ashton Jeanty.
Yep.
You put Trayvon Henderson in that kind of Jahmyr Gibbs role with DeAndre Swift being the David Montgomery there. I think you got something there too.
Fair. And my nightmare spot would be the Cowboys for opposite reasons. What I said, I don't want to see him in the spot where he's the prime work running back. I want him to be somewhere where it's a good complement, a team that knows how to use two running backs. Going back to the Lions last year, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. I want that in there. I think Trayvon Henderson fits that role where he can be your home run hitter, not your 3-down back. And I think that would be Dallas if he goes. Any running back that goes to Dallas, I think, becomes their 3-down back, and I don't necessarily know if I want that for Henderson there.
Right.
But our next running back here, Caleb Johnson. Now, you mentioned earlier your dream spot for one of our guys was Denver. This is my spot for Caleb Johnson. I think they're building something nice with the O-line there, and that's what we saw a lot of Iowa. To me, Caleb Johnson has the best vision in the class. Now, granted, his O-line made the Red Sea for him, made open spots for him and everything. But Caleb Johnson has phenomenal vision that every time a hole popped up, he was there like that. He snapped his fingers and he was there. He saw where the holes were, saw where the gaps were, and he made sure that things needed to happen there as well. Excuse me. My nightmare spot, though, would be Chicago. For what you were saying, too, the opposite factors, I just don't think he fits what they might be looking for. I don't know if people are confident about Montgomery, but I don't think he will be that Montgomery type of back. I want Caleb Johnson to be a 3-down back. I don't want him to be rotating between guys there.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on the Bears being the nightmare scenario there. To me, he doesn't complement DeAndre Swift to that kind of to what Ben Johnson wants to do, right?
Right.
But my dream spot for him is the Steelers. To me, he kind of looks like Le'Veon Bell 2.0.
Okay.
Yeah. He's not going to make you miss a whole lot. He's not going to burn you with speed, but he's a patient runner. He reads his tackles, and that's exactly what Le'Veon Bell did. And the Steelers have been kind of chasing that type of running back for the last several years since Le'Veon left.
For sure. That makes sense. I would actually not mad at that either. And that's someone if they want to pass on Hampton in the first, they probably get Caleb Johnson in the second there. Grant Hampton could fall out the first two, but I do like that as well. Denver or Steelers, two places that we can agree. I think that if a running back goes there, they automatically kind of raise up their draft stock there, just going there as well. Mm-hmm. Our next guy, I know me and you are both pretty big on him as well, is Devin Neal. I would love to see him go to the Chargers. I think this is a team that I know they got Najee Harris. I think Devin Neal is a little bit more fluid than what Najee Harris is. Najee Harris definitely a bruiser, but Devin Neal can definitely be their pass catching back, but he can also be their 3-down back if they need that. Najee Harris is on a 1-year deal. I don't necessarily think they're giving him an extension. I think this is just a one and done deal. Then he's going somewhere else. Devin Neal could be their guy in their future. I would absolutely love him to go there. My nightmare spot would be Buffalo. I think James Cooks is their guy, and I don't want to see a guy. I don't think they're going to run the committee type of approach, or if they do, it's going to be beneficial for the second fiddle to James Cook there. So I don't necessarily want a back there. So if Devin Neal went there, I would be devastated because that's one of my guys.
Sure. Yeah. My dream spot for Devin Neal is the Chiefs. I think he kind of does what Isaiah Pacheco does, except a lot better. I think he does what Kareem Hunt does, except a lot better. And
put them together.
Right. So you put him in that type of situation to where, again, he doesn't necessarily have to carry a full load,
right?
Because you have Pacheco who's still going to be there, but obviously, Kareem Hunt's just going to be on a 1-year deal. He's gone after that. His career is coming towards a close, sooner rather than later. So really what you do is you mix Devin Neal in with Isaiah Pacheco, and I think that's a really nice spot for him. He can be really productive with Patrick Mahomes there, especially considering that they're not really that kind of run and gun type of team anymore.
For sure. 100%.
Yeah. Then my nightmare spot for him is the Panthers. They just have too much there. Dowdle and Jonathan Brooks and Chuba Hubbard. I again, he kind of does what Chuba Hubbard does. It's just kind of hard to it's hard to see. I mean, and Chuba Hubbard has been super productive for the Panthers. So you don't want to put him with somebody who's been super productive. Whereas I could see him putting him with someone who kind of does the same things with Isaiah Pacheco, who's not overly productive,
Right. Yeah, when they re-signed Chuba Hubbard, that was definitely, get the noggin scratching there a little bit when they did that. I was like, I don't know how I feel about that, but I mean, he has been productive, so I get it there. Chiefs, I get what you're saying there. I think that's just more the Chiefs system not using those backs like that. At least from when Kareem Hunt left, they haven't used the running backs like when he was first there. But yeah, no good spots there. Damian Martinez, our next guy. My dream spot would be Baltimore. I know, let's say no, Damian Martinez starts out the gate, but I would love him to sit behind Derrick Henry and just be their guy after that. I know he's a bigger running back, but he's also fast as well. And if any running back is smart enough that if they're sitting in the same running back room as Derrick Henry, I'm asking Derrick Henry, what is your secret? What diet, what regimen, what workout routine do you do? Because I want to last like you do. I want to be the next robot in the league. And whatever you do, if they draft a running back, I hope they're asking him that, because Derrick Henry is, to me, one of the best running backs we've ever seen because of his longevity and what he's been able to do for so long. Like, he doesn't get hurt either. This is a guy that's built like a machine, and whoever's with him needs to say, hey, what are you doing? What are you putting into your body? What are you working out to just make sure that strength is there? Damian Martinez is coming in, bigger running back, still quick again. He needs to understand, hey, this is what I can do. And I would absolutely love that to kind of relieve him. I don't expect them to do a committee, Derrick Henry all day, but, you're the next man up at that point if they, take a day two capital on you. My nightmare spot here would be Cincy. I just don't – Cincy's – I don't think they'll use a day two pick on him. Where Baltimore maybe. And I Chase Brown, I know he could beat out Chase Brown. I just don't know if it's going to be the same production that Chase Brown kind of gave. They're different players to me. Chase Brown fit that offense, what they needed. I don't think Damian Martinez necessarily fits that style that they would need in a running back.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Ravens being a dream spot. That's my dream spot for him too. Just kind of seems to fit that big physical bruiser, big, fast, strong. And the Ravens seemed really comfortable with that last year. So
right.
I could easily see that being a nice landing spot for Damian Martinez. And then kind of once Derrick Henry is kind of moving on, I mean, this is his last year on contract. Do they try to re-sign him again? And if they do, then they still got, then they'll still have Damian Martinez,
right.
as a bullet in the chamber.
Exactly.
So I do like that spot for Damian Martinez. My nightmare spot for him is the Patriots. You already have Ramondre Stevenson there.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no reason to go get another guy who's very similar to what, to kind of that type of style.
Right. I do like Martinez over Ramondre, but I agree. Like, I don't think it benefits that anyway. Like, they get compliments for Ramondre, not someone there. Right. Henry being older, so you can get someone that can build on what Henry has and just continue that success there as well. DJ Giddens is our next one, because I know we both like Giddens as well. Talk to us about your dream spot and your nightmare spot.
Man, my dream spot for him is the Raiders. We talked about Shedeur Sanders. Mm-hmm. That was my dream spot for him. I think he would be great there, being able to swing him out of the backfield, throw those dump off passes to him. Plus, their new coach, Pete Carroll. Yeah, I don't know why I was blanking on his name there.
So many movement, man. There's so many coaches moving around.
Right. Pete Carroll, he loves his running backs. He likes versatile running backs. Yeah. Marshawn Lynch was pretty versatile back in the day when he had him there in Seattle. So I think DJ Giddens would be highly productive there in Las Vegas.
I love that.
spot I don't want him to go to. I don't want him to go to New Orleans. Alvin Kamara looks like he still has a lot in the tank. He's the primary back there. He's going to be the primary back there for the foreseeable future. I don't like that spot for a running back that kind of does similar things to what AK does. Catches the ball well out of the backfield, makes people miss. Pretty
a little bit
bigger, but pretty elusive.
Yeah.
So I don't think that would be a fantasy dream spot for him.
For sure. Yeah, that's fair. I'm not big on them getting a running back. I don't think they need one. I like Kendrick Miller, that too, but I don't necessarily think that, like you said, Kamara didn't show any kind of slowing down. So I think that would be a bad spot for a running back at this point. Or someone that's maybe if you're getting someone late, like if you go after maybe a Charles Brooks, just a goal line type of back that could just bruise it in for Kamara, I would love that. But Damian or DJ Giddens, I want to see him have the rock and actually get those opportunities. Kamara's not going to allow that. My dream spot, would be Minnesota. Absolutely love it. They did phenomenal with Aaron Jones. I think he could go in there and be a guy that complements Aaron Jones. I think he could be a 3-down back for them if they need it, if Aaron Jones does get banged up here and there. And they really didn't have much outside of Aaron Jones last year, so they definitely need a secondary back. And he's someone that I think could slip into the back end of the third to just get that last pick and get their running back. I would absolutely love it. I love the system that they can have there, and he can shine there. My nightmare spot, similar to what you said for Martinez and the Patriots. That's it for Giddens. I just don't think they need it. You have Ramondre Stevenson. You're going to get a guy that can be a bruiser and a pass catcher, but I don't think they're going to use Giddens as that pass catcher. They're going to just let him sit behind Stevenson, and it's not going to do much for him. I do want to say before we get to our next guy, everyone that is joining, man, we appreciate y'all watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Every Monday, we're going to start going live. This one's a draft episode. We are going to get into full college talk, though, after the draft, so continue tuning in. This is about the rookies in the 2025 class, but we'll go into more Devy stuff and collegiate news as we progress. But appreciate y'all joining in and watching it.
Yeah, speaking of getting more into Devy stuff here over the next few weeks after the draft is over, you and I have something big that we're working on for the Dynasty Trade Calculator. We're kind of we're kind of doing the Devy rankings and the Devy values over there for the draft calculator. So if you haven't already checked them out, go get registered over there. Check them out. We'll have our Devy stuff up there pretty soon.
For sure. Yeah, the Devy calculator, the Dynasty Trade Calculator, we are, like you said, doing the Devy. So, yeah, keep an eye on that. We'll keep y'all in the loop as well when that goes live, when the rankings are there. So that way you can plug it in and figure out what values you can get with certain players. We got quite a big list there. So we're here to help you out with, your deep leagues as well. Running backs, though, continue with them. Cam Scatterboo, I want to put him on this list because he's someone that a lot of you love him or you hate him. A lot of people are high on him. Some people are like, this isn't our guy. I would love to see him in Las Vegas. You mentioned about Pete Carroll, the type of back he has. Cam Scatterboo, I think, can fit that mold. I think he could be their breakout home run hitter, what people wanted Dylan Labe to be last year. Cam Scatterboo can definitely be that. Be just the guy that be the 3-down back. Be someone that could be their bulk carrier and actually be effective in the passing game as well, especially when you have like a Geno Smith that can dump it off real quick and easy. I would absolutely love that spot for him. I think that would be fantastic. My nightmare spot for New Orleans, basically what you said with Kamara there, I just don't want to see him go there because I think he could do what Kamara does. Not at Kamara's level quite yet, but we saw him be effective in the passing game, be a satellite type of back, be moved around in the backfield, be effective every down he was on the field. And I don't want to see that in New Orleans. I want him to get a chance to shine. I think Vegas would be a great spot for him.
Yeah, my dream spot for him is the Cardinals. I think he's a lot like James Conner.
Okay.
And James Conner is coming down to the tail end of his career. Once Connor's kind of out of the picture, I think Scatterboo would be a really, really nice replacement for him. Plus, Arizona State going to the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, it fits, right?
For sure. But hold on, before we get to your nightmare. So Trey Bench was by RB1 last year. Mm-hmm. So you're saying Scatterboo goes there, bench. In my opinion, Scatterboo goes there. He is the next in corner. Mm-hmm. What does that do for Benson? Is that Benson's pushed out now, or do you think they kind of run a two-man approach there?
Probably run a two-man approach there. I wasn't a huge Trey Benson guy coming out. Okay. he didn't really prove that he could do much in the NFL last year.
For sure.
So he's kind of on that kind of he's kind of teetering on that prove it or get
Moving
off
on.
of him. Yeah, moving on type of dude.
Fair enough.
But my nightmare spot for Scadaboo is the Patriots. Kind of the same reason we had explained earlier. Ramondre Stevenson kind of does a little bit of the same stuff.
Right.
Stevenson's still a young guy. They're still invested in him.
Fair.
I don't want him to kind of get lost in the shuffle behind him.
That's fair. Yeah, I just don't know the Patriots. I'll tell you about it off the top. I don't really want a running back in the Patriots. They just haven't been. They had Ramondre, and then behind them, it's always been just a crapshoot. I just don't want to have to deal with that. It's not the committee approach I want when you think about committees. But speaking of guys that can be in the committee, that I would be excited if they went. RJ Harvey. I'll let you start with your dreams and nightmares. What's your dream spot for RJ Harvey?
Yeah, you mentioned Aaron Jones earlier. RJ Harvey is Aaron Jones 2.0.
Okay.
It's very similar size, very similar style of play. You remember Aaron Jones coming out of UTEP, 5'7" guy, right around 200 pounds. It's basically what RJ Harvey is, right? So I mean, both of them quick, both of them fast, shifty.
Right.
I think sending him to the Vikings, they seem to like Aaron Jones's, that type of running back.
Right.
So, put him there behind Aaron Jones for a year, and then let Aaron Jones walk, and now all of a sudden you got the next Aaron Jones with RJ Harvey.
Fair.
My nightmare spot would be the Bucks. You already got two guys there with Rachaad White and Bucky Irving.
Fair.
Again, both of those guys are very similar. I just don't know how RJ Harvey would fit in, into that type of offense.
Yeah, I don't think it would benefit anyone. Fantasy owners, New York, or Tampa, or Bucky or Rashad. So I agree with that. Vikings, Aaron Jones 2.0. I like that comp. My dream spot would be San Fran. I know you mentioned CMC's the guy. RJ Harvey doesn't need to be the guy, but he could definitely be a third down guy. And I think that would be great, seeing that offense and what they can use him for. He's someone that's versatile. He's someone that has the speed and something that really fits that tempo and what San Francisco can use as far as a running back behind CMC.
That's not a bad pick either as a third down back, because that was how Aaron Jones started in the league with Green Bay.
Right, for sure. And then you have, I was trying, maybe you'll know this. Who was he behind though? It wasn't Lacy. It was, I can't think. I know there was another guy, but I'm trying to blank on Aaron Jones though. So I know he did start.
Are you sure it wasn't Eddie Lacy?
Was it Lacy? Might have been Lacy, because I know there was a guy in front of him, and he was he was like, "Oh snap! Aaron Jones is still doing work, even though he's not getting as much opportunity." Could have been Lacy.
I think it was Lacy, because Lacy got hurt there for a bit, and then they turned to Aaron Jones, and then Aaron Jones was like, "Okay, you're the number one guy, right?"
Yeah, possibly. My nightmare spot though would be Pittsburgh. Jaylen Warren, RJ Harvey. I just don't think it's the type of running back they need. They need a bruiser, and RJ Harvey is not that. Granted, RJ Harvey is very successful in what he does, but you talk about scheme fits. I don't know if that scheme fit is something that will benefit him. I think it's going to hurt him in the long run being something like that. As I mentioned, I know people like Jaylen Warren. RJ Harvey is better than Jaylen Warren in my opinion, but I just don't see why they would necessarily go and get that when they could get someone that can still have Jaylen Warren effective or useful in their offense as well. Speaking of Tennessee guys, as we mentioned earlier with Nico, though, our next one's a Tennessee guy, so I'll let you take it away with Dylan Sampson here.
Let's not get it twisted. Nico's not a Tennessee guy. Dylan Sampson, though, is
formerly,
right. Dylan Sampson is, and my dream spot for him would be the Chargers. You put him. I know that they just drafted Blake Corum last year, and they just signed Najee Harris. The Rams got Corum. Rams got Corum.
Yeah.
That's right. Najee Harris is with the Chargers now. But I think that would be a great spot for him. Najee Harris is only on a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
And other than that, I don't think they really have much of a running back room outside of Najee Harris, especially since J.K. Dobbins is obviously leaving. Then they cut Gus Edwards.
Yep.
I think Dylan Sampson, nice shifty guy, very, very much like Alvin Kamara. He played a lot like Alvin Kamara in that Tennessee offense. He's a little bit smaller than Kamara, but plays pretty much the exact same way. my nightmare spot, speaking of Alvin Kamara, is the Saints. Plays the same way. Kamara still has a lot in the tank. I don't want him sitting behind Kamara.
Rebuttal time. My dream spot is the Saints, and for what you said, complete opposite. The reason why I said the Saints earlier is because the guys I was mentioning earlier for the Nightmares was I feel they could be your 3 backs at the gap. I think they can. I don't know if Dylan Sampson is that. I would want him to sit behind Kamara to perfect his skill set a little bit better at that next level. You know, you mentioned they have the similar play style. Learn what Kamara is doing, so that way when Kamara goes, I think there's still a pending case against Kamara where there's something that could happen, maybe a suspension. I don't know. It's been going on for like 2 years. But even then, I think that'll be a great fit for him to learn that, because I think he can become that and what they want in Kamara. And we're talking about potential quarterback change. If they get a new quarterback, it's no longer a win now type of team. So now we might seeing Kamara be their guy this year, and now they need someone to step in and be someone else. Well, they could have a Dylan Sampson take over that role. Exactly it. So they don't miss a beat in what their offense is.
Yeah, I mean, if that ends up being the plan is to allow Kamara to move on somewhere else, then sure, that's a pretty solid spot for him to kind of learn that role and then take over once Kamara's gone.
Yeah.
I just don't know if that's what Kamara wants or if that's what the organization wants. I mean, honestly, Alvin Kamara is that organization right now.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, or Taysom Hill. But no, I agree. Alvin Kamara.
Taysom Hill, right.
My nightmare spot will be in Miami. They have Devin Achane. They have Jalen Wright. Just something I don't really feel comfortable in. I don't want that kind of depth there. Achane seems to be the guy if he's hurt. You know, I hope Jalen Wright gets his opportunity. But I just don't think it's going to be something that's going to move the needle for me as far. I don't want to.
Yep. They also signed Alexander Madison this offseason.
Oh, that's a big competition there. Don't want that. But you know, it's still like that's something where it's big as far as he would go to my taxi. That's where Jalen Wright's at right now. So I just don't necessarily want to see that for him. But that was our running backs. You know, I hope y'all enjoyed those dreams and nightmare for the running backs. We're gonna get into the wide receivers now, though. We have a few wide receivers to talk about, and then we'll talk about some tight ends here. But my first wide receiver here is going to be Travis Hunter. Our first wide receiver here is going to be Travis Hunter. We're putting him in because we don't know if he's going to play DB or wide receiver, so we're going to talk about him as a wide receiver here. My dream spot will be the Patriots, and reason is for the Patriots. Let's think about this one. So at first I was like, I don't know. I like Diggs. I think Diggs has some left in it. We'll see post-injury. That's something big. They don't need a cornerback one. They have Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez is his dog. Shout out Oregon. But Travis Hunter, he said he wants to play both sides. I don't think it would be possible for him to play both sides as the wide receiver one or as the cornerback one. That's going to be too much. But if you want to play both sides, you can be the wide receiver 2 and the cornerback 2. I don't want him guarding the best guys out there. He could be a lockdown guy, but I don't want him using that energy to guard a Justin Jefferson, to guard a Tyreek Hill, to guard Garrett Wilson. I don't want that. I want him to be guarding Allen Lazard. I want him to be against Waddle. I want him to be against whoever. I'll take that if you throw that out. The wide receiver 2 for the teams. On the opposite side, I don't want the best guys wearing him down on defense. Like, I want him to be against the cornerback 2s. So if they have Diggs and Diggs is healthy and you have Hunter being the underneath guy, I would absolutely love that. So in this sense, I think this is the wide receiver 2 for the team, but he gets a lot of looks from Drake May because Drake May will be able to feed around the field. So I would love him to go in New England. Jaguars, I've seen that mock there. Cohen's already said that the offense is going to run through Brian Thomas Jr. I don't want him to have to compete. I don't want him to take away from Brian Thomas Jr. I don't want him to have to compete with Brian Thomas Jr. I don't even know T-Law can do that if he can feed 2 people that of that elite talent at that level. So I wouldn't necessarily want that. They need a cornerback too. I don't want that. I don't want him to be the star guy on defense and then come over to the offense and be tired out, right? So that would be my nightmare spot for him. Would be Jacksonville.
Yeah, you know, kind of like your what you were talking about with the Patriots being your dream scenario. My dream scenario is the Giants for the same reasons. You know, you go there, you could be the wide receiver 2 with Malik Neighbors, and even and then when you're even able to take Sirius off the offense because you know Darius Slayton's there, you know, so Wan'Dale Robinson's there. So he doesn't necessarily have to shoulder the entire wide receiver 2 load there with the Giants. And then on defense, I mean, Deonte Banks is there. He's a pretty good corner. I still think Travis Hunter would be the CB1 there. And that's fine for me. I could see, full-time defensive guy, kind of a 60% guy on offense, which is probably still enough for him to be fantasy viable.
For sure. That's fair.
Then my nightmare would be the Browns. I think they have enough receivers there. And I just don't like that fit with him going, with Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman and, guys of that ilk.
So yeah, I agree. I don't think I have anyone on the Browns as a dream spot. But you mentioned the Giants then. So if the Giants take him, that's assuming they take him at 3, or maybe they pull Texans, they draft Shedeur at 3, and then they trade in to get the 4th pick, and then they get Shedeur, which I would assume that's what you're looking for. Because if the quarterback's not there, well, you have Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston. So retract what I just said. I completely spaced it. Got it. So you have a quarterback there that can feed the ball. So good spot. I like that. Mm-hmm. Our next guy here, Emeka Egbuka, who I think is a full, complete wide receiver. I think he can do a lot of stuff. My dream spot would be Texans. I think, pair him alongside Nico Collins, have him go with CJ Stroud there. I think it's someone that can fit everything that Nico Collins doesn't do. Emeka Egbuka could do it to a professional level. He can feed underneath. He can be in your slot. He can just be someone that can go deep if you need him to. But yet you have Nico to be your stretcher, and now you have him to feed underneath. I would absolutely love that. I think that would be a great offensive weapon that the Texans are missing right now.
Yeah, especially with Tank Dell's future kind of uncertain.
In question, right? And they need someone like that, And I actually compared Egbuka to Diggs, so I feel that can still feed into it. My nightmare spot would be Green Bay. I know there's been talk about Green Bay needs a wide receiver 1. As much as I like Egbuka as a wide receiver 1, I don't want that wide receiver room. They seem to not know who they like in that wide receiver room, whether it be Jaden Reed, Dontavian Weeks, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, all those guys. Feel like they get equally playing time. Maybe it's because some guys are injured, so you have them always fluctuating. But I don't feel they're even committed to one guy, and I don't want someone to go in there that they haven't even shown loyalty to a wide receiver necessarily. So that would scare me a little bit.
Right, and Egbuka kind of plays the same spot Jalen Reed does. So, you're kind of 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other, right? So, my dream spot for him would be Miami. You put him in the slot next to Waddle and Tyreek Hill.
Okay. Nice.
He eats. Yeah. My nightmare spot for him would be the Seahawks. They already got him with Jackson Smith and Jigba. So what would be the point?
Yeah. And then you have Cooper Kupp there. So you're just playing 3 guys that can do a lot of
the
same.
3 slot guys, right?
Yeah. Right. That can do some things.
Right.
I agree. I hope if the Seahawks get a wide receiver like a Jaden Higgins would do well there, but I don't want one of these guys that be a slot merchant and not be third fiddle at that case. Our next guy here, Luther Burden. I know a lot of people. Luther Burden's been an interesting wide receiver. You're either super high on him or he's dropping out of the first round for your team. So it definitely depends. But I would love him to go to the Titans. This is with the mocks happening with them getting Cam Ward. You put Luther Burden in there. I think he can do a lot of stuff that Calvin really does. I think he is someone that is quick and fast. Also fit in your slot role. So if you want Calvin to be your X, Luther Burden could take over that role though. And I think him being built up with a rookie quarterback will just do wonders for him as a professional athlete. My nightmare spot would be the Raiders. Burden, Myers, I think they trusted Myers. I don't know what would happen there. I don't think he would necessarily take that role on. I just don't want him to fill into a role where he's, behind some guys on the depth chart as well. So I necessarily wouldn't like that. Considering Bowers is there, I don't know how the offense will run with Bowers now that Pete Carroll's there, but I don't want to play that guessing game with Luther Burden. I feel I would have to if he goes to the Raiders.
Sure. I mean, you just don't know what you're getting with him, I guess.
Right.
My dream spot would be the Bengals. You put him in the slot next to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. You let him work that underneath to intermediate.
Yeah.
You run some gadgets with them. Man, that offense becomes so much more dynamic.
Right.
it would just be nuts to see him doing the types of things he can do with everything else that the Bengals do.
Right.
Just crazy. My nightmare spot would be the Lions. Him and Amon-Ra wouldn't really mesh well together, I don't think.
Yeah, Jay said, yeah, I agree. I don't want to see the Lions get someone like him. I would absolutely love him. Bengals would be nice because you also know Joe Burrow knows how to feed it, right? He can feed the ball around. Andre Iguodala, I think I said that name right, did pretty well sometimes, or Tyler Boyd once upon a time too. So definitely fit that just at a better level. I feel what Tyler Boyd was as well. Our next guy here, Ted McMillan. This is someone I said Seattle. If you need someone that can be that field stretcher and go up, I think that's really good for him, and that's something that he can do very well by himself. Just be their guy, and now you have him, Jason Cooper Kupp, kind of doing it. I think that could be a great thing for him to just benefit at that next level. Sam Darnold's there, and you can have someone that can be your go-to guy. Just throw the ball up, and he's the one that can get it with his height and his length there in catch radius. My nightmare spot, this is the place I see him mock to, will be Carolina, and I mentioned this earlier. I just don't feel Bryce Young is the quarterback I want to feed a wide receiver like Ted McMillan. I don't know if that's going to fit right for him. I think they need more underneath guys, someone that can be 10, 15 yards or 10, 5 yards out kind of deal. I don't want to see Ted go there. I don't think he has the career we want him to if he goes to Carolina.
Well, Ted put up big numbers at Arizona with a poor man's Bryce Young throwing the ball. Noah Fafita is not very good.
That's fair.
And Ted McMillan still put up big time numbers, but I can understand. I can understand being kind of weary of Carolina.
Right.
My dream spot for him would be the Commanders. You put him with Terry McLaurin there. McLaurin's obviously the number one guy.
Yeah.
But you put Ted opposite him, and all of a sudden those 50-50 balls are coming down with you.
Yeah, I agree. And you have, that's somewhere where you don't have all the pressure on him because he has a Terry McLaurin,
right.
So you can do that. I like that.
And you also put him with a good quarterback. Jaden Daniels, as much as I didn't care for him coming out of LSU, I didn't think he would fare very well just because I thought he'd get broken in half.
Right.
He was dynamite last year.
Yeah.
But my nightmare spot would be the Jags. Brian Thomas Jr. is the guy there, 100%. And that's unquestioned. And I just don't. I'm kind of like you. I don't think Trevor Lawrence can be the type of guy who can feed two productive receivers like that.
Yeah, never say never here. But I agree with the Jags. Like I don't think that's why I was off on Travis Hunter going there. Right. I just don't know if Trevor Lawrence is able to do that. Panthers need a field stretcher, sure. I'm not saying they don't need one. I just don't think it's going to be a beneficial or fantasy for someone like Ted McMillan to go there. I don't know if it's going to be.
And Jalen Coker was pretty good at that last year when he was healthy.
Yeah, Coker was nice. And undrafted, so he doesn't have much stock in him, right? Not much capital into him. But I don't know if that's the right move from them. They need to build out their offensive line. They can get wide receivers later. I don't know if Ted's the guy for them there. Next one here, John Paul Taylor actually said, Strepo game take isn't slow. Anquan Bolden ran a similar time. If he goes to the right situation, he's a good player. 100%. 100% again. Tommy, you got to admire here too.
You're right. I am looking awful good tonight.
Our next guy here, Trey Harris. My G spot will be the Falcons. I know they got Drake London. They don't have much outside of him. Kyle Pitts hasn't done much since his rookie season. Who they have? Darnell Mooney. I would love Trey Harris to go there and be the wide receiver 2, possibly the wide receiver 1, and then you have Michael Penix go out there and do work. They need a big wide receiver, someone that can go get physical, and I think Trey Harris can be that guy just to be someone that kind of stretches the field, not stretch the field, but move the chains for them when they need it in those tough situations. I feel that could be more of Trey Harris than a Drake London move. The Giants should be the spot I'm not really happy with. Malik Neighbors will take all those targets, and I don't know how Trey Harris fits into that room when you have Wan'Dale Robinson, when you have Slayton there as well. I don't know how much it is going to be beneficial for him, so I wouldn't like that 100%.
Yeah. My dream spot for him would be the Raiders. They don't have anything outside of Brock Bowers, and I guess if you want to include what's his face?
Myers.
Jacoby Myers, yeah. Trey Harris is better than what Myers is. You put him there, and now all of a sudden, I mean, you can say the same thing about Jaden Higgins. You put either one of them there, and now all of a sudden they become the potential wide receiver one pretty quickly.
For sure.
Then my nightmare spot would be the Eagles, just because I mean he would, at best is the wide receiver 3 in that spot, and it just wouldn't be a good location for basically any of these wide receivers coming out.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, best for sure. Because don't they have Dotson too? Isn't he there? Mm-hmm. So just be horrible. Before we get into our next wide receiver, John Paul Taylor has a question here. What's the best situation for Jalen Noel and Jalen Royal, guys? 2 studs and very high on what's being called a down class at wide receiver.
I think Jalen Royals, if he went to a good spot with a slot need, he could potentially be turn into a back end wide receiver 2 for you, top end wide receiver 3, and that's a starter for you. So
yeah,
I think if he goes to a slot needy team, then yeah, he has a very good location there.
I would like Royals on the Commanders. I think that would be a smart move for them. I think that's something that could fit them. Jalen Noel. That's a good question. Noel's
kind of the same thing.
Yeah. I'm trying. Noel's nice.
Noel's played a little bit more the outside, but to me,
a little more physical in my opinion.
Right, but to me, I mean, he's kind of a slot guy too. In my opinion, I think in the NFL he turns into a slot.
Both these guys too, like I said, Royals for Commanders. Jay Noel, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing him in Jacksonville. Like, I don't think he's not someone that's going to try to compete with Brian Thomas instead of being the one Thomas would be it. So that would be a good compliment to Brian Thomas there as well. So
I agree.
I would like those 2 spots there for him.
Yeah, to me, he could almost be a Christian Kirk type of guy.
Right, 100%. Our next guy here, another one that's rising up on draft boards, Matthew Golden. I would actually, I have Buffalo as a dream spot. I know they got Keon Coleman last year. I think Matthew Golden could be what they had in Diggs. I think he could be someone that could be an all-around type of receiver, moving around. Keon Coleman, just your kind of possession wide receiver, your field stretcher, if you will. Where Golden could be your guy that feeds else everywhere else. Where they have, I guess you could say Khalil Shakir, but I know they pay Khalil Shakir. He's familiar with the offense. Golden could go out there and feast and be their top guy as well. So I would absolutely love that. My nightmare spot would be the Rams. Maybe in the future that could benefit. I just don't know. He's not being out Puka Nacua, and I feel they can play a similar type of role as well.
Yeah, sure. My dream spot would be the Cowboys for him. Being that Texas guy, just coming to Dallas, I think he would complement CeeDee Lamb pretty well. I think he's a better version of Brandon Cooks.
Yeah.
So I think that would definitely be a nice compliment to CeeDee Lamb. My nightmare spot would be the Niners. They got several guys there already. They just drafted. They got Ayuk. They just drafted Pearsall last year. They got Juwan Jennings, and he kind of does what Ayuk does.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, he's a better version of Brandon Cooks, but maybe kind of a poor man's version of Brandon Ayuk. I don't know if that
yeah,
but
fair.
I just don't think that would be a highly productive spot for him to go to.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the passing weapons there outside of George Kittle anyway. So I know people like Juwan Jennings and they like, Ricky Pearsall, but I'm kind of off on them, and that's just George Kittle there. Our last wide receiver here is our Miami guy, Xavier Restrepo. Now, we just talked about 2 slot guys going to potentially the Jacksonville Jaguars. I would love Restrepo there. You brought up Christian Kirk. I think Restrepo could be that guy for him. I think he could be someone that could be all around the field and be a nice, reliable wide receiver when you can't get the ball to Brian Thomas Jr. down the field. My nightmare spot would be the Jets. I just don't really want to see any kind of wide receiver on the Jets. I don't know what to expect there. I don't necessarily believe in Justin Fields like that. So I'm even questioning Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's kind of said he's quarterback proof, but I don't want to see that him go to the Jets. I don't think it's going to benefit him at all.
Sure. Yeah, my dream spot for him would be for the Bears. Keenan Allen's gone, so he would just jump into that slot spot and he would eat underneath. You put him in that slot next to Rome Odunze and next to DJ Moore, and all of a sudden you got really dynamic type of offense.
Yeah.
My nightmare spot would be the Titans, kind of like I said with Cam Ward. Just starting over on that offense. I don't know if that's a good spot for a rookie to be in.
With the Bears, you think you said he'd be with Odunze and DJ just in between them?
Yeah.
You're saying, yeah.
Mhm.
I feel Odunze might fit what they want, what they had Amin Ra as. I think that's something that we might see this year. Try to that big thing. John, I know you asked a question here. It's a very good question. We're gonna get through our tight ends real quick, and then we'll answer that in the mailbags. But I do appreciate that question. Tune in. Give us some time. We're gonna get to that one though. Speaking of tight ends, though, Tyler Warren right now, my dream spot for Tyler Warren would be the Dallas Cowboys. I absolutely think that would be a great spot for him. I think they need someone like that. I know Dak loves to feed his wide or tight ends as well. So I'm absolutely all on board with him going to Dallas and just being the guy. And as you mentioned, they need a two, behind CD. I think Tyler Warren could be their possession guy, also a good blocker for them in the run game as well. My nightmare spot, and I've seen this too, and I would absolutely hate it for any tight end, is the Colts. I know they need a tight end. They also need a quarterback that can afford to throw it to the tight end. And right now, I don't feel they have that. So if any tight end goes to the Colts, I am out. But I am out, especially if Tyler Warren goes there. If he's in my leagues, I'm not drafting him in the second if he goes to the Colts.
Sure. Yeah, my dream spot for Tyler Warren would be the Panthers.
Like it.
He's a very versatile weapon out there at tight end. He can almost do a lot of the same things that like Brock Bowers does.
Fair.
I mean, the guy ran Wildcat at Penn State.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, he can do a lot of different things. And I think that would be a big time weapon for Bryce Young to have. My nightmare spot would be the Rams. I just don't think that they utilize the tight end.
Yeah.
I think Matt Stafford's more of a gunslinger. I just don't think that fits what Tyler Warren does, what his skill set is.
Fair. I do. I agree. I enjoy that as well. The Rams, I know they have Higbee. Not the tight end I would want for Tyler Warren to succeed. You get someone like maybe an Elijah Arroyo or even like a Gunnar Helm out there. Cool. They can, make it happen. Right. But I don't want a top tight end to go there. Next one, Colston Loveland. This is just a dream because I think it's a dream in everyone's head is, him pairing up with his coach in the Los Angeles Chargers. Would absolutely love that. He knows what he can expect from him. He'll be able to use him right out the gate. We want to see that again. And Colston Loveland going there, I think, can become the unquestioned tight end one of the class, being in a coaching system that knows how to use him and what he can do as well. My nightmare spot would be the Eagles. Yeah, I've got it there. I just don't think they need him. I don't think it's something that benefits them at all. So I would just be out if he goes somewhere like the Eagles.
Yeah, they also have Grant Calcaterra there, so they're
good.
They're pretty set there at tight end.
Yep.
My dream spot again would be the Chargers.
Yep.
You put him with Jim Harbaugh, and Jim Harbaugh knows how to use them.
Right.
He knows how. I mean, he knows what formations he knows what formations he's comfortable in. He knows what routes he's comfortable running. And I think Justin Herbert would really love having him. My nightmare spot would be the Vikings. TJ Hawkinson's there. I think they do a lot of the same things. TJ Hawkinson's getting more healthy or getting healthier. And I don't want him to have to compete with. I don't want Loveland to have to compete with Hawkinson for playing time.
For sure. I agree with that. Yeah, I don't necessarily want that either. Hawkinson's their guy there unless he's down. But even then, I wouldn't. Hawkinson's the guy when he's healthy. So I want that time there.
Not only that, but if he went there, he's at best the fourth option because Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and then Hawkinson. True. So
Aaron Jones too.
And Aaron Jones, yeah.
So Harold Fannin Jr., another guy, I think he still be a great fit for him. They just could use a tight end that could kind of move the ball with them as well and kind of stretch the field. Harold Fannin can learn a little bit from Dalton Schultz, I think, but he can also just be a solid wide receiver. I think they need more wide receiver help, more receiving help. I think Fannin can fit that role to kind of block down the field as well. If Stroud needs to scramble out, if Mix is going down, Harold Fannin is a good run blocker in my opinion, so that could be really good for them. He is asking here, how about Chiefs and Kelsey replaced with Mahomes? We'll get to that in just a second. But the Rams, like you mentioned earlier, I wouldn't want him to go to the Rams. Just his play style, I don't think it's something the Rams would use correctly, and they would pivot his draft stock, in my opinion. So I wouldn't want that because it's not a team that's going to use Harold Fannin for what Harold Fannin is good at.
Right.
But pull this back up, because how about the Chiefs and Kelsey replacement? Tommy, do you have a thing about that?
My dream spot for Harold Fannin Jr. is the Chiefs. Replacement for Travis Kelce. I think he's a good route runner, got really good hands. I think he's faster than Kelce. And I think he would be a tremendous replacement there.
And that's somewhere I know we talked about some running backs in the first. That's someone they could take late first and be totally okay with it. So
yeah, I mean, I've seen mocks where fans going like the 4th round. So
yeah,
you know, my nightmare spot would be the Raiders. They got Brock Bowers.
Say less.
They have Brock Bowers. They kind of do similar things. They wouldn't fit well together.
100% agree with that. Our next guy here, Terrence Ferguson. This is a guy that kind of, sneaked up on the combine, had a great season. I had him at Oregon. I loved watching him play. Pairing him with Bo Nix, I think will fit well. I think this is just a team that can use a tight end. They need a tight end. They signed to Ingram, I think, but even then, Ingram has had some injuries as well. So you go and get Terrence Ferguson, so that can be useful in the blocking game as well. Still do some good work. I think that'll be very beneficial. Seattle will be the team I'm kind of staying away from. I know it's a new quarterback there, but they didn't really use it a lot in their tight ends last year. I don't expect them to change this year. If anything, they're going to be more pass heavy towards the wide receivers than their running backs or tight ends. So I would actually hate that spot for them.
Yeah, my dream spot for Terrence Ferguson. You mentioned Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram just left the Jaguars, and I think Ferguson is a really good athlete, and I think he would be really good, kind of sitting across the middle of the field for those kind of check down passes, the way Evan Ingram did. Yeah. My nightmare spot would be the Bills. Dalton Kincaid. They still got Knox there, so that's not a good spot. Again, Ferguson kind of does a little bit of the same things that Dalton Kincaid does. Just not a good mix.
Fair. I like that. I like Jacksonville. I didn't even think about that. That's a great pick, especially to replace that Ingram. And here I haven't going to sit behind Ingram, but I love that. Now, our last guy is actually your tight end 4, I believe. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. I'll have you start off with Mason Taylor, LSU tight end.
Mason Taylor, dream spot, the Dolphins. I mean, his dad played there, legacy guy. We know what type of athleticism he has. We know what type of pass catcher he is. I think he fits that offense perfectly. You got those speedsters, the outside, you put him in the middle, being able to run those kind of short routes, those little out routes, those little screens. I think Mason Taylor fits perfectly there.
For people that don't know, his dad is Jason Taylor.
His dad is Jason Taylor, right?
Legend.
Hall of Famer Jason Taylor is Mason Taylor's dad. And then my nightmare spot for him would be the Bears. Gerald Everett didn't really get a whole lot of run last year with, sitting behind Cole Kmet. I just don't think, I don't think running Mason Taylor with Cole Kmet would be a good look.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want the Bears to draft a tight end that like a Mason Taylor. My dream spot would be New England. You talked about Miami and being legacy. Go and play for your dad's division rival then and go to New England. I feel he does what Hunter Henry does. He's just a solid wide tight end that can receive, but also be a tight end that can be all around and block for you as well. Hunter Henry is an underrated tight end that is really good. He could be a possession tight end as well, be a red zone threat. I think Taylor can be that, and it'll be a great compliment for Drake May to run with Hunter Henry and Mason Taylor there. My bad spot would be Jacksonville. I know you mentioned about Ingram earlier. I just don't know if Taylor's going to be that type, like the same kind of tight end that could kind of, move in your slots and stuff like that. I feel he's more of your straightforward tight end that's, lined up on the line. He can block for you, or he can go and make your plays and just make some big physical plays, where I think the Jacksonville was more of an elusive guy. So I wouldn't necessarily want him there as well. Now, appreciate everyone for joining our dreams and nightmares. That's who we had for our quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. Before we cut off the show, as you know, 1, go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you know when we're going live every Monday night for y'all at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. 2, drop us a comment or a question in the comments. You can tag us on X at the PPR Show on X, at Tom Harvey Sports on X, or drop a comment in here, a question, and we will answer it on the next episode. But because of that, we do have some questions going on here. John, I said we're going to answer yours, even though I just said all that spiel. I said we're going to answer yours because I really like the question here. But we'll start with yours here. Without naming the big name guys like Jency, Ward, Warren, etc., can you guys give me one lock, one bust, and one draft steal? This is a great question. I'm going to Tommy. Do you have anyone off your top? I need to do some quick research here. Look at some of my mocks here.
One of my favorite running backs in this draft class is DJ Giddens. He may not be a starter right away, but he's a guy that is going to work his way onto the field. He's just too talented not to. He does a lot of things. He does a lot of things well. I kind of said that my dream spot for him was going to be the Raiders, and I think Pete Carroll would utilize him perfectly. Another spot that I could see him going to is like Pittsburgh. I called Caleb Johnson, Le'Veon Bell 2.0 earlier. I think DJ Giddens could do a lot of the same thing.
So that's your lock? Is that still?
That's my steal, my gym type of guy. My lock is Quinshon Judkins. He goes if he goes again. It's all landing spot dependent. But if he goes to a spot where he's like the immediate guy, like a Dallas, he's a guy who could run for 1,400 yards as a rookie.
Fair. Okay. And what about the bust?
Bust. Oh man, you're gonna kind of put me on the spot with a bust here. I'm gonna go with I'm actually gonna go with Matthew Golden here.
Okay.
I don't necessarily see him as being a star wide receiver the way his draft capital is going to indicate. He's going to probably be a first round guy.
Right.
And I don't think he's a first round receiver.
Okay. That's fair. I like those. DJ Giddens as your steal, Junkins as your lock, and Golden. I can get on board with that. My lock is gonna be, man. This is just my guy. I'm saying Devin Neal. I think this is a guy that can go in there, as you mentioned with Giddens, might not be your day one starter, but he's gonna go on there and make sure work happens. He's going there and do that work for y'all. Someone I'm extremely excited about to see what he does at the next level, and I think he will be a back. When this guy was a freshman, when he came into college as a freshman, I had said he is the most underrated back of his class, and that is what he is to this day. The most underrated back of this class. He is going to go out there. He's going to be a 3-down back. He has great contact balance. He can catch the ball at the backfield. He can be the star running back for any team in the NFL, and I think he will be that. Devin Neal is my lock. My bust, I'm going to say Jaden Higgins. I know a lot of people are high on Jaden Higgins. This is more for the fantasy community because I don't know if the draft capital will necessarily replenish that, but I feel a lot of people are taking him way too early. Like, I'm not going to take him mid-second or even possibly late second. There's a lot of guys I like above him. I think he's going to be a bust. I know he's kind of a field stretcher. I'd rather wait till the 4th or 5th and go out there and get Ricky White, in my opinion. So I have Jaden Higgins as the bust.
I'd like to see where Jaden Higgins gets drafted. If he gets drafted in the 2nd round, which is where he's kind of getting mocked at right now, I think you're talking draft capital-wise, he may be a high 2nd round, rookie pick.
I think that's gonna be a bust. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think that's where it comes in. I don't see it with him. My draft day steal, though, this is a guy where I'm to the moon for him. I feel if he played a full season, his draft stock wouldn't be so low. But that is Colorado State's wide receiver, Torrey Horton. I love everything about Torrey Horton. I think he's a phenomenal wide receiver. He has good twitch. He has good hands. He got injured last year. So if you're looking at his stats, he got hurt. He was hurt most of the season last year. He did play, but he still was hurt. So that injury affected his game. And go watch the 2023 season. This kid is phenomenal. Again, he has phenomenal twitch. He has great hands. He could be a solid wide receiver. He's someone that will be drafted day 3. But that's my sleeper. That's my steal and gem that you can get him 4th round, 5th round of your rookie drafts, and he could potentially pay off for you as well. So my lock, Devin Neal. My bust, Jaden Higgins. My draft day steal is going to be Torrey Horton there. John says
I'm a very big Torrey Horton guy. I made sure I grabbed him in every C2C I was able to get him in the last couple of years.
Yep, if I was in there, you probably didn't. But I hear you. Thomas Fadon, young, very talented, sold out Senior Bowl. Might get him some deep Devy leagues. That's where your deep Devy leagues. I don't, or deep Dynasty, excuse me. I don't know where he's going to make the big impact on what you would want. So deep ones. When you go into your 5th or 6th rounds, you're throwing darts. If you want to have room in the taxi, go and take him. But
yeah, I mean you're probably talking a late day 3, mid to late day 3 selection. Those types of guys don't really tend to pan out very well. Now, I mean, you are able to find some gems there, and he may be that type of guy, just depending on where he goes. Landing spot always matters, so
right.
we don't know his spot yet. So I guess here in a couple of weeks we'll know where he lands and where he kind of fits in.
For sure. So we have 2 other questions we'll get to real quick, and then we're gonna let y'all go to sleep here. But first one from FF Mad Dog, he asked, "How do you navigate a rebuild in a Devy format?" And I thought this was a phenomenal question because it's different than Dynasty. So, how do you navigate a rebuild in the Devy format? Examples: do you target Devy picks to have more dart throws, or do you trade for drafted college assets who only have subjective value? Tommy, I'll let you start off with this one if you want, or you can pass it to me.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a mixed bag. Kind of depends on what you have on your roster, what you're willing to trade off. It also kind of depends on how you feel about the Devy assets you have and what you can get as far as more Devy assets.
Right.
So again, it's kind of a mixed bag. If you like your Devy guys, keep them. If you don't, but somebody else covets them, get rid of them and start building your playable roster now.
The thing with Devy picks, because I was part of it, right? I wouldn't get younger on my Devy roster. Like, I wouldn't go and say, all right, I'm gonna draft all these freshmen, because we never know what these. I mean, depending on when you're having your draft, probably before the season, but like you never know when these players are gonna end up, right? We all thought Jeremiah Smith was.
But you can give me Jeremiah Smith all day, is what I'm saying.
But say though, we all thought he was, and Jeremiah Smith proved it.
Mm-hmm.
But we also thought CJ Baxter was the RB1 of his class, and he hasn't done that, right?
Been hurt.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like you don't know what kind of situations happen. So to rebuild, I wouldn't say go out there and get picks in your Devy draft to say this is a rebuild. Now you can't go trade for some Devy players. Maybe trade for, if your running backs in your Dynasty league or your pro league is going dwindling. Yeah, go out there and get some running backs in Devy. Say, hey, I had this. What am I thinking of? Like the carousel. I'm drawing the blank on word I'm thinking of. But you have the pipeline of the next running backs right coming up. So go ahead and do that. But I wouldn't say go out and say, hey, I'm rebuilding, so I'm gonna go out there and get all freshmen now. Don't do that. But yeah, definitely keep it, questions there as well. And then our next one here, Amir 95 says he isn't sure how Nico on the move impacts Devy. What does this do to Devy players moving forward? Should we expect more holdouts? Very great question. Phenomenal question. You handled Nico earlier with your take. So what do you think here?
I think if schools are willing to do what Tennessee did and just kind of cut the cord there, I don't think you're going to see as many holdouts as what you would have if Tennessee were to have given in to Nico, because that would have kind of set a precedent. Right. Now I kind of think they've set the precedent that we're not going to give in to you. Wow. I think other bigger schools are going to continue to do the same because they know that they can just go out and replace the guy. Right. Smaller schools maybe not. Kind of mid-range schools. Like if somebody did that at BYU may potentially have given in, right, just because their star player, they don't want to lose. They don't want to kind of fall down the pecking order. But your bigger schools like Florida, Tennessee, Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, USC, Oregon, I think as long as those teams kind of stick to their guns, those programs kind of stick to their to their principles, I guess is what you can say. Right. Then I don't think you're going to see holdouts for those teams. Yeah. Now, as far as the Devy impact for Nico, I think it drags him down considerably. He's a guy. You
don't want to drop him. I don't think you want to drop him.
You don't want to drop him, but you also don't want to be drafting him in the first or second round anymore either. 100%. Mainly because, again, where's he going to go? Right. If he goes to Tulane, do you think that that's really a NFL caliber draft location?
No.
I mean, Michael Pratt got drafted there a few years ago, but Michael Pratt.
No, I'm saying like
right, exactly. But again, he wasn't a very highly drafted guy.
Right.
Before that, you're probably talking 25 years ago. Since somebody was drafted.
Right.
Darian Mensah just took a kind of a mediocre position, a mediocre quarterback spot at Duke to leave Tulane. So, I mean,
it's $1 million talks, so I'll take that.
Money talks, right?
Yeah.
But how much money does Tulane have to give Nico?
No, I'm saying, yeah.
So I mean, if he goes to Tulane, then he clearly sees his stock is dropping too.
For sure. Yeah, I think how does it impact Devy moving forward? I don't think it plays impact. Like, yeah, we might see more players do it. But we mentioned earlier in the show, timing matters. If anything, this should show players, look, bro, I can't the star players, I can't enter the transfer portal at this late in the season. And I say season, I know the season's not happening, but at this late into spring season. Had he done this in, again, December, January even, this is a whole different conversation because teams will be eating up trying to get him. He waited until April. We have guys that are already doing not spring practices, spring games. The teams are already looking at evaluating their guys. They're already talking, having meetings with their guys. They don't want to go out there and get this guy and get him caught up. Like, that's wasting their time at that point. Doesn't matter how great he is. Again, you mentioned Jeremiah Smith earlier. That's a one-on-one. That's a one-off situation because we know Jeremiah Smith is legit. To be honest, Nico looks good on tape, but that's on tape. His production doesn't say he's great. And I know we're high value on him, but that's where it's like he didn't do himself a favor. He actually did himself a disfavor by going into it now. If this was in his camps, his dad's plan all along, his dad did him a disfavor by not talking to the team earlier that say we want this. Why are you waiting till the spring to make this happen? It's frustrating in a sense to say, oh, we're going to wait till this season. Like, it's like a player in the NFL going through 8 games and then saying, hey, I'm going to hold down unless I get a contract extension. All right, well, no one's going to necessarily take you. They'll cut your ass and say, all right, you're gone, right? So that's some different situations there. Timing matters. I think that's what we learned in this situation.
Yeah, it also shows very questionable decision-making.
Yeah, and that scares coaches, especially you talk about running back because you said, breaking news, Jaden Ott went to the transfer portal. A quarterback is your leader. If he's questioning where he wants to be now, you don't necessarily want that. So that's something that's not good in my opinion.
And especially since it was clearly just a money grab.
Right. 100%. Yeah, it was like, oh, pay it. All right, bro, walk. Go see who's gonna pay you. Now you're nowhere. Right. So he messed that up. John, I know I said ask you a question, but you asked one last question. Sorry to keep you up. When you get drafted a player, when do you give up on drafted player on average? What's the time scale? 3 years. I mean, each position is different, right? Quarterbacks, if they're a first-round quarterback and they're not out the gate booming, more questionable. I get if they get a landing spot right, you have people in front of them. I'll give them a couple of years here. Like if Jackson Dart goes to the Rams in the first round, I don't expect Dart to start, but I do want to see him start within the next 2 years. So I would say 3 years max is for me.
Right. I mean, then you have Anthony Richardson that, I mean, a lot of people have already given up on him 2 years in. Right. People gave up on him a year in.
Right.
And
I think I'm still in.
And fair. I mean, he has all the tools. He's clearly a physical specimen, but he's yet to put it together. I mean, he wasn't a winner at Florida. So what made anybody think he was going to be a winner in the NFL?
Fair. Proper coaching, but that's far and few between here as well. Right. I actually lied to some people saying this was the last part. We have one more part here for you guys. Thank you all for joining in. Don't forget to subscribe here as well. But we're going to go ahead and do our My Guys real quick. And this is going to be our IDP edition. We're going linebackers. My guy is UNLV linebacker Jackson Woodward. This is a guy that's might sneak into day 2. I think he might be day 3, but he is an all-around complete linebacker. He can be the leader on the defense. He gets tackles. He tackles with pure form. This is a guy that doesn't miss them. He goes out there, he makes it play. He can actually have 100-yard tackle seasons out the gate if he goes to the right spot. But Jackson Woodward, I'm really high on him. I love him. Who's your guy?
Yeah, my guy's Chris Paul Jr. out of Ole Miss. Okay. He's a really, really good coverage linebacker. He's going to fit in as a team's will. So I mean, he's going to come off the weak side. He's got good range. He can cover sideline to sideline. He's got good speed. Ran a 4.63 40 at the combine. That's actually not too bad for a linebacker. He's able to cover tight ends and running backs. So he is able to go out on routes. Like I said, he's a good coverage guy. He can play downhill a little bit also.
Fair.
He's going to, he's going to kind of have to be more of a run stopper than what he was in college. But I think he's got that. I think he's got that in him.
Yeah. I think those are two great linebackers that we can see, skyrocket. IDP is a little bit different, but if you are an IDP, it's great. It's fun to play as well. Tommy, man, we read a long episode. We had a lot of people tuning in. We appreciate y'all tuning in. Don't forget to follow us on X at the PPR Show on X, at Tom Harvey Sports on X. We are your Devy Scouts. This is the Devy Degens. We are live every Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, guys, we appreciate y'all joining. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see y'all next time. Peace.